Hello, everyone. Welcome. I think we're going to get started. Welcome again. My name is Crystal Chumney, and I'm the Manager of Public Services here at New Canaan Library. We are delighted to have you with us this evening to hear Mike and Sally Harris present on India, the color, the calm, and the chaos. The Harrises are active members of the Stanford Photography Club and have exhibited their photography in multiple venues and shows around Fairfield County. They are passionate about sharing their photo essays and discoveries with people from all over. They currently reside in Greenwich, not too far away. At this time, if you would kindly silence your cell phones. And please join me in welcoming Mike and Sally to the stage.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi. You might have guessed I'm Mike.
And
Sally.
I'm Sally.
We're really pleased to be here. I want to thank Crystal for putting this together and thank all of you for coming out. How many people here are from India?
Great.
Wow. And how many people have visited India? Oh my goodness. I'm not sure what we can add to what you've seen. We may just go home. So, just as a disclaimer, we spent 3 weeks in India recently, and we love photographing, and we love photographing culture and people and the stories that go with it. We do not hold ourselves out as experts about India. Somebody called me an expert a little while ago, and I said, no. There will be people in the audience who will be experts about India. But we're here to show you our photographs and tell you our story. Sal, you want to talk about how we set the trip up? And
Yeah, or were you going to talk about the people, taking pictures of people first?
okay.
I can't remember the order.
One of the things we get asked at every presentation we do is, do you ask permission to take photographs? And it's a good question. And the answer is, if the time is appropriate, we do ask. If we wanted to take a portrait of somebody, we would ask. But if we see something happening, it would be ruined if we stopped them and asked them to do it again. So we take the photograph. And but one thing about India that stands out, and like no place in the world, is that there isn't anybody in India who doesn't want to be photographed. You don't have to ask. They come up to you, and they say, would you take my picture, please? And then they hold their cell phone up, and they want to take a selfie. We take the picture and say, do you want to see it? No, I just wanted you to take it. So it's very interesting.
It was an easy place to photograph people. So just to give you a little background, we were given the opportunity a year ago to travel in India with one of our favorite photographers, Nevada Weir. And she leads photography groups to places like India, and she knows them very well. She's a National Geographic photographer, and we love traveling with her. And this opportunity was to photograph the Holi festivals in India. And the Holi festivals are their celebration of spring that's in March. And so this was a year ago. But Mike and I had never been to India. And so we thought, before we jump into these Holi festivals, we would like to get just a little introduction to the country. And so we called a travel agent that was helping Nevada with her trip and said, could you set up a little trip for us before to get us, so we could see some of the typical India things that you want to see. And so this is our trip. We flew into Delhi, and we did what they call as the Golden Triangle on our own for a week. So we went from Delhi to Agra to Jaipur, and then back to Delhi. And that, someone was asking, what's a good thing to do in India? And that, the Golden Triangle is, you get a great overview of India that way. Then we met up with the group in Delhi, and we went to our first festival just south of Delhi, and that was a Holi festival. Then we went up to the Punjab and went to another festival. And then we went down to Gujarat, and that was our third festival that we went to. And we call this the color, the calm, and the chaos. And you'll see that at times it's very colorful, at times it's very chaotic, and then at times it's just very calm. And we were just struck with those three
Sometimes
feelings.
it's a combination.
Yes.
Of those.
So this was our first impression of Delhi, and we wanted to walk the streets of Old Delhi as much as we could. So we asked the person who put the trip together, let us be able to just spend time walking the streets. And this was our first impression, and it's just, as you can see, chaotic and crowded.
And colorful.
And colorful, and everything is there. There's a cow, there are cars and trucks and bicycles and rickshaws, and it's just, but it's a joyous chaos.
You would think that everything must operate very smoothly in this kind of an environment. And the next photo really demonstrates this. This is the communication system in Old Delhi. I have no idea how people get electricity in the right place or know how much to pay for, but it works. So this was I think it's called a koot-koot.
Tuk-tuk.
Tuk-tuk, excuse me. We were in a similar vehicle, and these people were trying to pass us. The streets all over India are typically, if it's a 3-lane road, people will make it into a 6-lane road. They pass you with maybe this much to spare, and the noise is just constant. And so we saw this sign, and it said, "Horn, please." And I thought, well, at last, the government is trying to get people not to blow their horn. But that's not true. This is telling them to blow their horn.
Blow your horn, please.
So the person will know that you're about to pass them. We started in Old Delhi early in the morning, and it was sort of calm at that point, and this fellow had just opened up his juice stand and just liked the combination of the colors in the photograph.
This is one of my favorite photographs. This is Mike's. It won first place in the Stanford Art Association color show.
She can say that, I can't.
And we just loved sort of the food that's out on the streets, and you also will pass by these little cubby holes that are stores, and people set up their wares, and they make it very comfortable, and they sit there all day. And so that was one store. This is a bead shop. I loved that you'd see a group of tailors sitting inside a little room. Or you'd see barbers out on the street. And I loved this. This was one of my photographs, and what I love is that the boy here and the dog sort of have the same expression. They're both sort of looking the same way. And you see bicycles.
We titled this "Remove Shoes Before Entering." We went up on a roof to get a view down to the street, and this fellow was on the roof below us, and he's a baker, and those are all little pastries that he's going to take down to the street. And I just noticed something I hadn't seen before. There's a hand.
Yeah, I did. I just noticed that.
I have no idea what that's about. That's one
He's
fun thing about photography is you continually see new little details. Manual labor rules in India. Constantly you saw people carrying huge loads. This man was perched on top of his wagon, and it was full of goods, and he was sort of taking a nap when I came along, and he saw me and acknowledged I could take his photograph. Bathing in the street is not uncommon. I photograph Coca-Cola signs wherever we go, and I try to get them in a bit of a unique fashion. And I just like the coincidence of the reds here between the turban and the signs. Coke should employ us. The other thing, I always photograph a mannequin, or many mannequins, because I think they sort of give you a little bit of the character of the location you're in.
I limited him to one in this presentation, so that's the one mannequin. Kids, there were kids all over the place, and we loved them, and they, of course, loved being photographed. And these two girls, I just thought were so beautiful. This is in a little village right outside of the Taj Mahal, and they were I just thought they were stunning. One night we were walking through Agra at night and came across this group of boys playing marbles in a driveway. And so I of course, got down on the ground with them, and I was playing with them, and we had so much fun. And then, of course, they wanted to pose for a photograph.
You cannot tell somebody not to do this.
Yeah,
it's impossible. You go, no, and they go, no. So this was sort of an alleyway, and I discovered it was leading to and from a school, and I guess recess had just let out, and you can see one boy notices me, and within like 20 seconds, this is what happened. I was pinned against the wall, beginning to worry, and but Sally was nearby.
I'm over here, by the way. You can see me over there in the corner.
She was getting a big laugh out of this. So this is an illustration of how we photograph the same scene in different ways. Often when we go to a place, we'll say, you go that way, I'll go this way, and we'll meet back here in 45 minutes or an hour. But we were together at this particular time, and this is a restaurant. I'm not sure I want to eat there, but I was fascinated with the grease coming down and the lighting inside. But Sally saw something different.
I stepped back, and I liked sort of the whole view. I did like the grease, by the way, but I loved the cow lying in front of. I loved the cow lying in front. Religion plays a big role in India, as you can imagine, and when you go into a temple, you have to take your shoes off. And I was standing at the doorway of this particular mosque, and I loved just the silhouette of him holding his shoes as he walked in. This is in Delhi. This is the biggest mosque in Delhi. It's called, I can never remember the name.
Somebody want to yell out the name?
Jama Masha. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And it's enormous, and it's beautiful, and we spent probably a morning there and walked around. We did go inside, and
This is where you see the calm.
yes, this is part of the calm.
Absolutely quiet.
And you sort of question whether you should be photographing, but I think if you're quiet and respectful, and we were able to, and we had long lenses too, so we could get close to some and take some shots.
That's one of Sally's. I was fascinated by this young woman dressed in, I like the green and the purple. Yeah, and they really sort of feed off of each other. But then as I watched her, all of a sudden, she was praying. And I thought the transformation was interesting. I did talk to her afterwards and showed her the photographs, and she seemed fine with that.
Oh, yeah. So just some photographs of prayer.
The man was praying right next to this boy who wasn't really paying much attention, but the colors are fun.
And the stripes.
This is one woman who did not want her photograph taken. And it was really the only time, and we asked our guide to take us to the river in Agra where they wash clothes. And not one person there wanted their picture taken.
Or they wanted money for it.
She told me no after I took this picture.
But this is the scene, and you see things drying out on the sand, and or here.
So then, this is a crematorium, and the guide suggested we might enjoy photographing there, and I sort of wondered about it, but once I got there, I thought, wow, this is really neat. Hindus believe that you should be cremated as soon as possible after death, and so they just bring one body after another into the crematorium and do this in front of everybody, and
it's a celebration, so it's nothing. It is they celebrate the life of the person.
yeah.
So we went in. We were a little nervous about taking photographs, but our guide said no. I wouldn't worry about it. Just photograph away. And in fact, people were fine with it. The family members were sitting there, and they were fine with it.
Except for one person.
Well, one person I was photographing, and I looked over, and I saw this man going like this, and I thought, oh no, I've upset him, and by taking his photograph. So I said to the guide, would you mind going over and just apologizing for me, because I think I've upset him. And so the guide went over, and he came back and he said, you haven't upset him. He wants you to take more pictures of him. In fact, he wants you to get closer and take pictures of him. And I laughed, and I said, well, should I give him will he give me his email address and I can send it to him? No, that's okay. You don't need to, he doesn't want to see it. He just wants you to photograph him. So we did.
Cows hang out at the crematorium too. And this is my artistic shot, looking through the fire at a cow. Then early one morning, our guide took us to the Delhi flower market. And it's a very large area where people deliver the flowers. There are individuals who take the buds off the flowers and they put them into garlands. And it's really an amazing process. And then the hotels and the restaurants and the people who want flowers all come and buy them. And marigold seemed to be a particularly popular flower for this. These were two men who were delivering the marigold garlands to the retail guy who was going to sell them to the hotels. And he's next here. This is supposed to get more laughs than it got. But can you believe that a marigold salesman would wear a marigold-colored shirt?
He just sort of disappeared into the flowers.
Can't find him.
This is another Mike story.
Yeah, this lovely gentleman was posing for me. He's you can't tell what he is, but he's a rose salesman. And we showed the picture to his friends, and they just laughed, and they said, you can't see the roses. So I agreed to take the picture again.
And this is just an example of what happens. People would just grab me and say, would you take a selfie with us? So this is me and my girls.
So now we're going to take you to the Taj Mahal.
And this, honestly, if you haven't seen it, it's breathtaking, and I get chills even looking at it again. It's as spectacular more spectacular than you even think it's going to be. And we went first thing in the morning. We went the minute the doors opened, and
there were probably 1,000 people in line ahead of us.
Yeah, it's still pretty crowded, but it is just beautiful.
I tried to get them to fix that one pillar on the right, but
no such luck. Then this is in Jaipur, and they call that the Pink City. And this is a palace called the Hawa Mahal. And the idea was that the women in the palace could all see out to the street and watch the festivals by standing at the windows, all the hundreds of little windows there. The other thing that is in Jaipur is the Amber City Fort, and it's enormous. And this is the view as you're approaching it. And just to give you an idea of how big it is, you can, and high, the entrance is very high, and you either get there by climbing up steps or riding an elephant. And just to give you an idea of the perspective, these are elephants walking up. So we decided we'd do the elephant ride.
It's also the touristy thing to do.
Yes. And I love this, the Elephant Owners Development Society. I just thought that was great. So this is what we're waiting. This guy, I guess, was helping organize and here's our driver for our elephant.
Do you call an elephant driver a driver or a jockey or?
I don't know what. Okay, thank you. What are they? Thank you.
I am embarrassed.
I know, I am. I love this, the shadows on the wall, and that's me taking the picture there, but it was just a really interesting ride up there.
As you go up, people are trying to sell you things, and this parasol I thought was really pretty, and Sally loved it, but we're on top of an elephant. We're not about to buy it. And when we got done and we were back in the car, and said to the guide, you know, that parasol was so pretty. I would like to have bought it, but he said, too bad, too late. Anyway, when he turned us over to the photo group at the end of the week, he had a little gift for Sally.
So I got my own parasol. I didn't untie it first, but I'll show you. Keep talking and I'll.
Keep talking. Well, we'll go to the next.
Oops. That's us on the elephant. So
How long are
I'll
we
show
gonna-
you. I'll show you at the end.
So now we're going to go to the Golden Temple. This is in Amritsar, and this is a Sikh temple.
Yeah, and I was going to say it's up in the Punjab, and it's right near the border of Pakistan. So this is, we would take this little road going into the temple area, and Mike, I love this shot. This was at night, and a bus was going by with these people going to the temple, and the light just was perfect.
So this is truly the calm, and
Yes, this really.
this you can tell is the Golden Palace.
You just sort of, you're quiet when you enter, and there are all sorts of people there, but you just feel so much when you can just feel it when you walk in. Yes, yeah.
We took our shoes off, and it was cold, by the way, and
In the morning, that's right.
Yeah.
It was very cold. This is a Sikh who's in the water, and people come from all over to be blessed by going into the water here. There are little ropes so that if you go in, you can pull yourself back out. But this one thing about Sikhs is that they have they all wear turbans, and they don't cut their hair and they wrap it up, and then they have these daggers in their turbans. That's again the calm.
so this is just sort of ripples of the temple, but many Sikh temples have something they call langar. It's a program whereby they feed people on a regular basis at no cost. It's volunteer driven, and so we were invited to come in and photograph the preparing of the food and the serving of the food, and these are just the plates.
And the wonderful thing about Langar that we just loved, the concept, is that they do not believe in the caste system. So they prepare this free meal for everybody. And it doesn't matter whether you are royalty or peasant or what religion you are, you all sit and you all eat together. And it's just such a wonderful concept.
Now, what is mind-boggling is that at this temple, a group of volunteers serve meals to 100,000 people a day. That is one big kitchen.
And we did get to see it. So here are some photographs from the kitchen.
What is that, dough?
Dough, yes, they're making the bread here. And he loved being photographed. This is putting the oil and garlic and oil on the bread. These are all volunteers. There was such atmosphere here. The smoke coming in just really made it wonderful. That is a big bowl of lentils. I could fit in that and swim in it.
3 other
That's
people.
how big it is.
Double, double,
That's-
toil and
It's
trouble.
like the three witches. So this is when they serve the meal.
And these groups just file in, they get their plate as they come in and their utensil and cup, and they sit in rows in this huge room. And they're served, they eat their meal, and then they get up and they walk out. And at that point, it's time to clean the dishes. Each one is washed several times.
Just And then, because we were at the Pakistani border, we went to this really amazing celebration that takes place every single night. Are people familiar with this? It's the closing of the gate, and as you can see, there are thousands of people there, and this happens every night. And they do all sorts of things. People will take the Indian flag and run back and forth with it and hand it off to someone else and run back and forth with it. And then it was hard for us to get photographs here. These aren't as good photographs because we were, it was difficult to get a good view. But these are the guards, and they have the most wonderful uniforms on with the big sort of rooster-looking thing.
And how nice, by the way, that, with the difficulties between Pakistan and India, that they gather on a daily basis just to say, okay, we're friends.
Right, the same thing is happening over on the Pakistani side at the closing of their gates. Then we went to some tribal villages down in Gujarat, and it's a whole different, the people have a different look. They're much they're more petite, and their features are finer, and they're shy, and they're not as used to cameras. So we were driving along, and we saw these beautiful women and pulled over, and they were a little shy, but
But not so shy that they didn't ask for money.
that's right, because they had the machetes.
That is not a machete, that's a sickle.
A sickle, I mean, a sieve. But just wonderful. We got to walk in through a village and go into a home where we saw a chicken
This was in the living room.
on their dirt floor.
Then I noticed this woman outside, and I took her picture, and she sort of shook her head a little bit, and I don't think she wanted to be photographed. Then I showed her the picture in the camera, and that seemed to change her mind. She came in and sort of struck a bit of a pose, and then another pose, and still another pose. quite beautiful.
Yeah. They had these drawings on the wall that are new. They're not old drawings. They're not like cave drawings, but it's just a interesting story.
Folk art, and they have a couple, they're specialists in different towns that will do the drawings on the walls.
Oh, boy. I love this one of the. And then these girls, I had to take their picture, and but they were really nervous, and they didn't really know what I was doing, but I took the picture, and they were very serious. And then I showed them what it looked like, and they just burst out laughing, and then they wanted it again. They got all serious again. Take another one.
I kept, and the kids would run up, take my picture, I'd point the camera, and they'd turn and run away before you could take the picture.
Okay, so that was our sort of a look at India as you might see it if you went there. This is a look at India with our photographer Nevada Weir and her wonderful guide that she's worked with for years, and Manoj, and he is just an excellent guide. And they took us to these festivals. So our first one, this is sort of what you see when you first go. It's in a temple, it's very crowded, and people are throwing powder and squirting liquid. You see this little boy here with this,
He got
like a
me
water
right
gun.
in the back, too.
And this guy's about to throw a pail of red water on us.
So this is right at the beginning, and we wore, first of all, we wrapped our camera. We had plastic casings, and then you sealed the edges so that no powder could get inside. And then we wore either a shirt, T-shirt, and a pair of pants you didn't care about, and a hat and glasses. And so I'm in my goggles and looking very much like the photographing tourist. And these two guys come up to me, and I knew that this was the beginning of my adventure. And they basically go down in the bag, and then they go, and you're in it.
And it's the kind of thing as you just let it happen. You just roll with it.
Yeah, one member of our group refused. I mean, he tried to stay away as far as possible, and he was just.
It was too bad because
Yeah.
you really want to get in the middle of it, and it's such a joyous occasion, and people are dancing and singing
It's
and
loud
laughing
and it's raucous.
and joyous.
Go back one. That guy with the mustache.
It's a fake mustache.
It's gotta be a
It's
fake.
fake. It's fake.
What are they celebrating?
This is Holi. This is and this is actually called the Lathmar Holi, and there's a long story that goes behind it, but it's really the celebration of spring.
One version has women challenging men and for control of towns, and there are a number of different versions. Anybody in the audience have the answer? No. Okay.
Why do they put color on everything?
It's just the way they celebrate spring is
And
by
there is a
getting
legend.
painted.
There is a legend behind that, and it's sort of a long legend, but it has to do with a sister.
We're limited to an hour and a half. I'm just
But-
kidding.
No, yeah, we're not limited. This was one of my photographs. That,
This is one of my favorite photographs of Sally's. It's just the way the boy's so clear in the foreground, and then all of a sudden he's purple and you disappear into yellow and can hardly see the other person.
you see a lot of dancing, and this is something you see where they grab hands and spin around. All ages are involved.
He was into it.
This is
This was at the entry to a sort of an inner temple where people were going to pray, and I was standing there, and everybody would come up and sort of bow and clasp their hands before they passed.
And on the other end of the temple, I saw this dancing starting to happen. And so I went over and I was trying to make my way into the front so I could photograph it. And I felt this hand grab me, and it was one of the security guards. And he was taking me to a better place where I could sit down and get a good seat. So I was grateful to him.
This is a eunuch, and we'll show you a couple more.
Yeah, this is a man. It's a she-man, I guess. And they travel around and perform dance at different festivals and celebrations. Yeah, beautiful wall decorations. Here's the little band playing. She's twirling around.
He's twirling around.
He's twirling around. Another, not the same one, but another she-man.
So I sat down with the guard.
Yes, this is Mike right here.
Sat down with the guard with the purple hair, and then the guy on my left came and sat next to me and wanted his picture taken. And then this group of 6 women were just walking, and they saw us sitting there, and they saw Sally with the camera, and they ran and sat. It's quite a group. This is at the end of a hallway, and I just waited for people to come by who had interesting outfits on.
Talk about people with interesting outfits on. This was our getup.
Look at the shirt.
And this was probably an hour into the day. Oh, and I love this because they did a hat switch. They exchanged hats so I could take their picture. Stranger, total stranger, came up. Then we moved into the village, and we were gathering. We actually were able to get onto a balcony that overlooked the village square, and that was great because it got very chaotic. But people started gathering, and I loved that there was a cow just walking down the street. And it started out very calmly. These people are lining the square that at this point is empty. And then within 20 minutes, it's filled. And this, again, is the Lathmar Holy. And what happens here is the women beat the men come out with shields that they put over their heads, and the women beat the shields with sticks. And this is all part of the ritual and the fun. Oh. And this is in a temple on a balcony. Luckily, we had this balcony again so that we could be above and look down.
So this is one more location we went to, and we were struck by the vehicles that came and the number of people they could fit into each vehicle.
This is up in the Punjab, and this is a Sikh festival. And so everyone's in turbans, and there were entire villages that would get into a truck to come to this particular festival. Entertain themselves. Yeah, exactly. Putting his turban on. This is a classic. This is sort of the epitome of the Sikh with his turban and the daggers and the bangles, and he was on the street corner. And this particular festival, the thing about this is it's they show off their military it's military exercises, and they show off how they can jump up and do all sorts of things like that.
So we got a Coke, 2 Cokes, and some potato chips, and we sat next to each other, just wanted to be left alone.
That
No
lasted
way.
about 2 minutes.
So
And this is the third festival. So now we're down in Gujarat.
So these guys cover themselves in oil or tar, and then they come up and they hug you unless you pay them.
And this is this is called the Kawant Festival, and this is a celebration of nature and its relationship to man. And so this is a tribal group coming out. And we were told, don't worry, no powder, no colored powder in this one. It's just, so
Wrong.
so all of a sudden the powder comes out. And it gets more and more, and it gets more furious. And the yellow, it's just clouds of yellow powder.
They shoot it out of the ground. War zone.
No, no. And some of it is, no, it's not. Some of it stains, as we found out. Some of it is organic, and it just depends on who's making it. Some's synthetic, some's organic.
Was your camera protected that day when you thought they weren't?
We were not protected at all. And we were covered. But it was this is the last day, I think.
Spent over
pretty
2
much.
hours that night cleaning the camera, taking it apart.
And then the green powder came out. And that's really the end of our festivals. And the one last picture is, here is our whole group. Just to give you an idea of how silly we looked.
And can you tell which person didn't want to be painted?
Here's the guy that did, Carlos. He was
I don't
a
know
little
how
nervous.
he avoided it, but he was very scared.
Who's this
And we'd
guy
be in the
over here?
middle of a field, and he'd come up to me, and he'd take my arm, and he'd say, "You won't leave me alone, will you?"
But anyway, it was a jolly group, and we had so much fun. And so that is the end. Good. Phew.
That group in the end, were they photographers?
Yes, it was a group of photographers.
Give me just a moment so I can bring the mic around. Other people might want
Yeah,
to
does
hear your
anybody have
question.
any questions?
So yeah, we have, I don't know, 15 or 20 minutes
The
for
last
questions.
question was, were they all photographers? And these groups are just photographers, and you don't go if you're not going to get up first thing in the morning.
This was our guide, and we were going to tell one funny story about our guide. And just to tell you how wonderful he is, we were on our way into Delhi in our bus, and the bus broke down. And it was really scary. We were in the fast lane, and we had to move the bus over into the side of the road. And he was on his phone, and within probably 10 minutes, 5 Ubers came up. And we were carted off to Delhi after that. He's just, I can't say enough about him. Which one is he? He's this one right here.
Bottom left.
Manoj is his name. And this is Nevada Weir. And the two of them have done trips in India so many times, and they just are a great duo.
By the way, the hotels that we stayed at were fabulous.
Yeah.
And we learned after a while to just give up and let people help you do things. Like they'd say, "Can I take your bag?" I said, "No, I want to carry the bag." Fine, okay. We sat down in the room one night, or afternoon, I guess, and I took my shoes off to relax, and I was inputting photographs into the laptop, and knock on the door, and the guy comes in. He comes over, and he said, "I am your servant for the day. Is there anything I can do for you?" And I said, "No, I think everything's fine." And he disappeared. He went to the closet, and he came out with slippers. And he said, "Can I help you put these on?" And I said, "Of course."
Questions? Okay.
How was the food there? Was it, I mean, did you eat off like food trucks or in restaurants?
Well, first of all, we never drank the water. I think that's true in many countries.
And we never got sick.
But we didn't also eat street food. And we would eat at hotels. And we went out to restaurants that Manoj knew, and he would order. And the food is fabulous. It's just the spices and the flavors. Really loved it.
Did you all have long lenses, and did anyone attempt to reproduce what you were doing with an iPhone, a smartphone?
Oh, yeah, well, I would have taken more iPhone pictures, but mine sort of disappeared at the first festival. And I think it was because I was jumping up and down with everybody and it was in my pocket. So that was, but sure, I mean, we all use iPhones, I think.
I'm not a fan, but Sally, her iPhone photos are absolutely wonderful.
And do you use a long lens?
And we have a long lens too.
I use one lens and don't use a telephoto. And the theory being, if you need to take a picture, get closer.
Yeah, that's what they
It's
say.
the closer you get to your subject, the more personal it will be.
But sometimes I find that long lens handy.
Yeah.
More questions? Oh, okay. Oh.
Long lens on your iPhone?
No, no.
Oh, yeah. Were you at all concerned about inhaling that powder? I know you said it wasn't toxic, but inhaling it doesn't seem like a
Oh,
healthy thing. to
at
do.
one place, they did give us masks. The Minogue was running around saying, here, put the mask on because you're going to go into a place and it's going to be so filled with powder that you're going to want the mask. So they took such good care of us. Yes?
I see a lot of yellow. Is there some significance? Because
Not that I'm aware of.
No,
There was
and
a
it
lot,
may just,
there was a lot of green and purple. We just happened, that one last event we were at was mainly yellow and red.
but there was a
Well,
lot of
and
pink
green.
too, pink and red and. Yeah.
I have the yellow in my hair at the top right, but everybody else
He saw a lot of
didn't
yellow.
seem to get that.
More questions? Oh, okay, hold on.
I had a friend of mine that made a similar trip, but he was by himself. He hired a guide, and he was up in the Punjab, and he saw the border outpost right by the border, and he wanted to photograph the border guard. So he walked across the field, and his guy's jumping up and down, waving his hands, and he takes the picture, walks back, he says, "That field's full of poisonous snakes."
Oh, no.
Do you have any poisonous snake run-ins?
We did
Oh,
not.
that's good.
We did not.
That's good.
But someone was asking about travel tips in India, and I do recommend getting a guide, getting a driver. You don't want to drive yourself. It's really, it's a challenge.
Did you enhance any of the photos as you were doing the presentation? Or do any
It's a really good question.
contrast?
We take photos in something called RAW format, and the photos that you see in the back of the camera are JPEGs, and the maker of the camera puts software in that enhances those photographs to make them look brighter and a little more vivid. RAW photographs come out sort of dull, so we enhance every single one of them. Even as we're importing them, we have an override that says add a certain amount of this to each one. And then,
We try to do it the way we saw it in our minds. I mean, we
if one
don't.
area is particularly shadowy, we'll lighten it up so you can see it. But we don't put people in and take people out like old relatives, and divorced spouses and things like that.
We try to keep it realistic.
I think there was one over here. Oh.
I don't remember if it was during the Holy Festival, the first one, where I only saw men and you.
Yes, good. That's a good, because other people have pointed that out. But there are women there. It's mostly, and it's a sort of a long story about the history of that ritual, but it's really more the guys from one town come to sort of tease the guys from another town and try to, it's a long story, but you're right. And there were only women, but, I mean, there were only men, but then you do see women around too. But they're not the focus of that particular one until they get into the square and they're hitting the men with their sticks. When was this trip? Oh, it was a year ago. It was March of last year.
What kind of camera do you use?
We use a Canon 5D Mark III.
And we also have our iPhones, And we have,
A Sony mirrorless, which is a little smaller. But we both used our Canons while we were there. You saw the one of, well, let's see. No, you can't really see them because they're all wrapped up there, but that's mine right there.
there was,
On your neck and
Yes.
well,
yeah.
not around your neck necessarily. They're very easy to be taken if they're around your neck. So
so how do you kind of move around and
if I'm in a, by the way, I had no fear anywhere on this trip or almost any other trip we've taken. But we did learn something for Argentina and Buenos Aires called the Turnley grip. And you take the strap ends up wrapped around your wrist and on your thumb. And you can carry it like this. You know, you can just let it hang. You can hit somebody with it. And nobody can take it away from you unless they take your arm.
But we have different straps. Mine goes across like that. Mike's just
I
goes
typically
across.
just, I do have it over my shoulder. I find that nicer than, and it's easier to get off and move. Just a preference. David?
Okay. Come.
Well, I have a, it's 18 to 70. So it's a zoom, but it's not a telephoto. More like a portrait lens.
Mark, oh, okay.
how did the guy in the khaki avoid all the colorful stuff?
What was that? I'm sorry.
Khaki up there in the top row.
How did he avoid
How
it?
did he
He
stay so
just,
clean?
he stayed on the sidelines. And it's just no fun that way. You got to get in there. There were actually other photo groups there, and several of them sort of stayed on the perimeter. But when you're with this Nevada Weir, you got to get in the middle of it. She makes you.
Seems like a more authentic experience
Yes,
too.
yes.
So
Can you show the photo with the lemons, the man with the lemon, in the lemon kiosk?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right in the beginning.
Thanks. I know. What's it? I think it's up here. It's like the first one.
There he is.
Wow. Isn't that
it's an
just
amazing
gorgeous?
photo. Yeah.
And someone said, "Oh, you can't take a bad picture in India." But let me tell you, I tried. I took the same picture, and it's awful. It's just you caught it at just the perfect moment.
Somebody did say that at one of our slideshows, and I said, we took 4,000 pictures on this trip.
You can take a bad photograph.
Believe me, 2,000 were automatic deletes.
But yeah, this just the color and the composition. I love it.
And I wanted to ask a question. I don't know if I missed it. I'm sorry, I had to run out and do other work. I was curious about the reception, about you. I mean, about the meal that was being served in the beginning, and how the staff seemed very open to having you take photos. But I wonder what the reception was for the people receiving the meals, and you know what that was like. And was there anything that was your kind of takeaway or thoughts about that?
Well, it's not a alms kind of
Oh, okay.
event. In other words,
It could be anybody there.
anybody. And I was a little sensitive and didn't
Yeah,
go
me too.
right up to them and just did it from a distance a little bit.
I went to Amritsar, and I went to the Holy Temple.
Just go closer to your mouth.
I went there, and I had lunch,
Mm-hmm.
and they had us working in the kitchen, and we rolled the chapatis.
Uh-huh.
And a man who was very elderly with the long beard taught me as we sat on the floor, and I met the main chef, and
Oh.
it was the highlight of my trip.
Absolutely. I can imagine.
Now I'm jealous.
I know. Me too.
And the food was delicious, and it was clean, and I was not afraid.
Yeah.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Would you go back?
We would go back. We were talking about going back. We might do Calcutta or another place. But there's so many things we want to photograph.
And so many places that we want to go. So
And
we.
it's not just foreign, it's in this country. We've done a couple trips to Mississippi that we loved, photographing the African-American population there and their way of life. It's really, it's hard to go back now, you know. It's a long trip, too.
I think.
Yeah. Well, we've done our own books. I did actually bring, we did a book, this group did a book that, of all of our, 3 photographs from each of us, we did a book here, and it came out really, that's one of Nevada's pictures. I love it. It just shows how the color and the...
We publish through Blurb books. I don't know if you know Blurb, but I like the quality. They're not inexpensive for a like 80-page soft cover. It's $40 or something like that. So it's not cheap, but
not expensive.
it's online, and we have a software program called Lightroom, which goes directly to Blurb, and we design it right in Lightroom what we want it to look like. It's a lot of work to do a book, but it's fun.
Okay, I think our time is up,
Oh,
right?
well,
Oh,
any
Krista.
more last burning questions? All right. Oh, yes, when's the next trip?
We just got back from a month. We rented a house in Oaxaca, Mexico, and had
Fabulous.
a great time, just sort of living in the city. We went an hour outside here and there, but I'm not sure.
We have some ideas, but we're not quite sure.
Ireland,
I'm sure.
Ireland is one. Italy, maybe go back to Italy.
the Midwest. I want to drive the corn country, and I just have things in mind, but we haven't planned anything. We want to get April 15th out of the way.
You know, Mike does still work, so this is,
Well,
so he,
oh, I'm sorry. I just want to say thank you again for sharing your lovely artwork and your trip with us. Thank you, everyone, for coming, too.